Hello and welcome back to Anastasia Speaks, where sacred spaces are created to heal the invisible scars and build communities of love, whilst illuminating the magic of you. I am Anastasia, your host, and today's episode is about how opening the door of vulnerability through unlocking my own sense of spirituality has allowed me to embrace who I was and everything that I am. I speak about why being broken open caused me to grow significantly and just what triggered my spiritual journey. I thought this would be the next best episode and the next best thing to talk about because, hey, people don't really know about me. I gave a little bit of an intro in the first episode. I went somewhat deep, not completely. I didn't want it to be so heavy in the first show. Didn't want to scare you all away because most people that know me knows I get really, really deep and quite quick. So I thought I would like to ease you in before getting into the real meat, I guess, and potatoes, as they say. A great question that came up from the first episode was, what would she know about a spiritual journey? What does that even look like? How could she possibly know? And this was brought up to me actually by my mum, and the most beautiful response I could have ever imagined came from that. And my mum had responded and said, well, that's for my daughter to answer. I don't quite know how to answer that, but watching my daughter, I know that she's on one, but you have to ask her and get that from her because she's the one that's gone through it. And I thought how beautiful that was and what a great question. So I want to thank you all for the questions. Those of you that have reached out and said how you've enjoyed the first episode and look forward to more shows. I really, really appreciate you and all the feedback. So I would just like to say that. So where to start? My spiritual journey, I believe, started when I was very, very young, maybe about 4. I think 4 was the first time I can actually remember feeling energy. And then from then on, it was about understanding them. It was about understanding what I was feeling, how I was feeling, and understanding that they were feelings, what they were, listening, paying attention to the thoughts, the energy, the shifts in my mind, in my heart, even tangibly in my body, And I think for all of us, the spiritual journey begins when we are born, honestly. We're just not cognizant of it. And so because of that, I would like to say we're all on our spiritual journey, It's like the saying goes, we are spiritual beings having a human experience. We have this vessel, this human suit, if you like, but we are so much bigger than that. We are so much more than that. And we always have been, we always will be. This suit, if you like, this human vessel that we're in is only for a short period. It's why they say life is short. What they mean is life as we know it in this form is short because we are only here but in the same bodies for so long. However, our energies, the consciousness, our souls exist far beyond this vessel. And so everyone's spiritual journey is going to look different. You are going to meet people alike that are going to have similar journeys, similar experiences, but no one journey is the same. And no one journey is more significant than the other. One may or may not be more challenging, yes. One may be more highlighted, one may be more recognized or even celebrated. But I would like us to start here by saying and acknowledging and accepting that we are all on a spiritual journey. It's just about recognizing it and acknowledging it and understanding what that looks like for us, what that growth has been like for us. And so for me, the first thing I think about, I remember being actually in my flat when I was really young, maybe about 6, and experiencing energies moving as though they were form. It was dark, and one might say that I was having a nightmare or I was having some sort of vision. But I remember this vividly. I remember seeing these energies, feminine energies, and them almost conjuring up this sort of negative and ill-wishing intentions. And they were towards me and my family. And that's what I felt. I felt an immediate, just dark energy. And I remember thinking, or being crippled by it, actually. I remember being so crippled by it that I froze and just watched, to see what would happen. And once I figured something's happening, I can feel it, this doesn't feel good, I remember praying. I remember shielding my physical being with my covers and asking my sister to do the same. Asking her if she was all right, kind of getting her attention. I can't remember if she was awake or not. I remember her answering me at some point. I said, well, cover your head. Just cover your head. Just do it, And I remember praying. So hard about it. I'm feeling really shook up, feeling really uncomfortable, feeling really vulnerable, actually. Really vulnerable, thinking, oh my gosh, these people are out to get me, my family, my sister. I have to protect them. I have to find a way to make it go away. And I remember visualizing my duvet as this shield, that wouldn't melt or cave in or allow any negative energies to come in. And I'm not sure when I told my mum about it, but I remember her saying, oh no, you didn't see anything, and go back to bed, it's fine. And I think that shook me up even more because I could feel the energies just intensify. I felt as though they felt my fear intensify, and that these energies were really watching me and watching what was happening, and that I had to do something. So I remember really praying hard and saying, God, if you're there, if you can hear me, protect my sister, protect my mom, protect my dad, and, get these energies to go away. And eventually the energy of love came in, and source came in and kind of diffused that for me and, cocooned me into a sleep. And I remember waking up the next morning looking in the same place where I saw these energies, and it was different. I didn't see it, it was not moving, it was still, because there was figures on the wallpaper. And, my mum probably thought, oh, it was the wallpaper scaring me. But hey, when you're used to seeing this, how can all of a sudden one night, it's different. So I didn't know what was happening. And I think actually my mum somewhat dismissing or, telling me not to worry and it's fine, it's nothing, made me fear more that I'm the only one that was seeing this, understanding this, and I could possibly do something, but I had no idea of what. And so, that was really my real first tangible experience with spirituality and being a spiritual being and energy and vibrations and frequency. I didn't understand it at the time, of course, and it's later on that I understood exactly what that was and how, it appeared to me, and the gift that it was to see that vision, to understand the energies, even though I didn't really understand at a young age, and how that really did kind of propel me into another world of existence and teach me something that couldn't be taught, which is energy is real and tangible at times. And just because other people can't see it doesn't mean that it's not real. Even though my mother at the time wasn't able to validate my experience, I knew it was real. I knew it was real. I didn't know how I knew, I just did. And so because of that, I always would have an extra sense of awareness about energies. And when it came to the darkness and bedtime, I would always remember asking God to be with me, asking the angels to be with me, asking Mother Mary to be with me. And I always felt covered. I always felt fine. And I always felt this sense of relief or release and surrender that just engulfed me in love and light. Is the only thing that I could describe it to right now, looking back at the time. And so that was the beginning. That was the beginning, and there was various things, probably not as severe, but similar to this, that I experienced growing up. You know, I remember having visions and knowing family members were going to pass away, and I couldn't explain it. I just knew. I just had the visions. I would just wake up at the times of their passing, and then I'd get the news in the morning that it happened, or I would be really sad because I would be feeling the energies of this person in the family going to pass away. And sometimes I would say it to my parents, my mum rather, really. And, you know, sometimes I remember just her looking at me sort of bewildered. How would she know? You know, how would she know? And I remember even more specifically when my grandma passed, I was asleep, and I remember my grandma calling actually for me, or hearing my mum calling for me, or both of them at the same time. But it was distant. It was like a really loud call, but distancing and an echo. And immediately I heard that, I knew my grandma had passed. And I woke up. I woke up actually saying, she's dead, isn't she? Grandma's dead, isn't she? And my dad was in the room. I think my cousins were faffing around or crying, or coming in. And my dad because I sat upright, you know? And my dad said, what did you say? And he kind of looked at me not knowing what to say after I repeated it. And he said, yes, darling, she has. But don't worry, go back to sleep type of thing. And, you know, I couldn't go back to sleep. I was awake. I thought of my mother and how she would feel, how she would cope, you know, because my grandma was the matriarch of the family. She was loved by not just her family, but by so many. She really was, you know, a pillar and cornerstone for so many. And, you know, definitely prevalent in my life. I mean, I'm named after her, so, you know, it's deep, our connection. And so, you know, there were things like that occurred consistently in my childhood, consistently. And there weren't things that my mum made noise about, or my dad made noise about, or even I made noise about, because, again, I'm learning. I'm not really understanding how I know or how these things are coming to me. They're just happening. I think they're happening to me, right? Now I understand they were happening for me. And so in this time, I'm developing, I'm growing, I'm learning more, I'm observing more, I'm asking more questions in my mind, in my heart, also to Source, you know, to God. And I'm receiving what feel like answers, what feel like, you know, guidance. And it's all intuitive, you know. Most of this is intuitive. And I go through this throughout my life. And somehow I find a way to journal. And now I know it to be poetry, to write poetry of everything that I was feeling, everything that I wasn't saying out loud to people, to my parents, to my family, to friends, I would write it down. And doing this helped me compartmentalize all that I would feel, all that was going on for me. And it gave me a sense of who I was becoming, and being clear on the things I was receiving, the things that were being shown to me, the things that were obvious internally, but maybe didn't make so much sense to the external world. And I became okay. I became content, satisfied with knowing and not having everybody else know. And I would definitely say that added to the confident woman most people see me as, and the confident girl most people saw me as, as a teenager. And even growing up, I was very quiet. I was reserved because I was always observing. I was observing nature. I was observing people's nature, their characteristics, the energies, the shifts, always. And a number of things in my childhood also made me hypersensitive, to different things, which I will go more into detail about in the episodes to come. But really, this was the gateway. This is really what made me feel more than what was being said to me, or what I was saying, which led to me understanding there is more to this life than what I know. There is more to this life than what I see. There is more to this life than what I hear. And really, this became a ringtone in my being, a calling in my soul. There is more. There is more. There is more. There's got to be more. I know that there's more. I feel that there's more glimpses. I just don't have the words for it. I don't have the vocabulary. I don't have maturity at the time. However, I know this to be true. And so this really paved the way for my journey in the years to come. Fast forward my childhood into my teenage years. Now this is really where it gets juicy. There's going to be a whole episode, maybe even a series, that comes from this particular event and everything that follows after. But I will briefly share it with you now because it is very relevant. So I was in the thick of this. There is more. There's got to be more. And this feeling, this aching, this dull aching of something missing, something more. I'm yet to discover a piece that I'm yet to figure out, to integrate. And in the midst of that came a flood of tears, a huge flood of sadness, deep sadness, that really wasn't warranted at the time for anything that was going on externally. All I can describe this as is this deep sort of yearning, and this deep yearning for knowing that there is more, wanting to know what that more is, and as though something was missing and I was yet to find it. And as I, surrendered into what that could be, and not thinking, but in the midst of the sobbing at night, it seems, a lot of things happen that night time, eh? We have these calls, those of us that are initiated in our journeys and really led to create, to lead, to guide. We have these moments of insomnia. We have these moments, the peak hours, I would say, where we are inspired most. And here it was a full moon, I believe, and I was sobbing. I remember sobbing, and I remember thinking or feeling like I needed to go to the window and stargaze, which means looking up at the stars. And I happened to notice it was a full moon. I was 14 at the time. And I remember sobbing my heart out and calling out to God, to Source, and saying, what is it? What am I missing? Help me find out what this is. I don't want to feel like this anymore. And I say that because I know I've had this feeling within me, but in that moment it was a roar. In that moment it was a cascade of waves just took over, and I was remembering a sense of something that I hadn't yet remembered, in a sense. And that feeling came, and I stargazed, and I looked up at the moon, and I said, and I think I made a wish to know also, to find out. And immediately after, I heard this quiet voice tell me to go downstairs, to go on the computer. And it was quiet, it was calm, it was peaceful, it was loving, this voice. And I know it now to be my intuition. I also know it to be very similar to Source's voice, to God's voice, and even sometimes my higher self. And again, we all come on to what that looks like, what the higher self is and why. But for now, I remember hearing this voice, and I remember just immediately not questioning it, but just following the guidance. And this moment changed my life forever. This moment led to the opening, the true opening of a door I was not prepared for. And yet, I guess I was prepared for, my soul was prepared for. It was the door of vulnerability. It was my spiritual awakening. It was the start of being conscious about my spiritual journey. And from that moment on, I didn't even doubt. I didn't doubt there was more, because all the things that led up to that was so divine and synchronistic. It sounds like a movie. It sounds like a movie. It sounds unreal to most. It sounds made up, but only those who know me and know my experience know that this is true. And it's just brought me so much wealth, so much richness, so much abundance, so much fulfillment, so much contentment in my life, to know that I have an inner guidance. I'm able to hear God's voice. I'm able to know the vibrations, the frequency of love, which I believe God is, right? And this has led me through many doors, and vulnerability is definitely one. And in that moment, I was vulnerable. In that moment, one might say, oh, it was ego, oh, it was just my mind talking. But actually, it was so much bigger than that, because of the events that happened after that. And it led to me meeting my twin flame. Now, most of you are probably thinking, now what's a twin flame? Or here we go, there's that buzzword. But I'd like to be someone who lets you know twin flames are real. Twin flames are these beings of love, of unconditional love. They are here to anchor in unconditional love. And I will speak more specifically about twin flames. But I will just like to say, in that moment, I understood that there was a grand plan, a master plan that I did not remember, because I truly believe we chose the life that we have. We choose the people that are in them. We choose the journeys that we are to go on. And in that moment, I understood, wow, this is part of the more. And it happened instantly. I made the request, I made the wish, I asked, and immediately, I got guidance. Immediately, I was led into more alignment, into finding out more. And this is what happens when we allow ourselves to be broken open. We allow ourselves to be vulnerable in the sense that we are open. We are open without hiding, without restriction, in order to be in alignment, in order to know our desires, in order to understand them, in order to understand ourselves deeply and understand others deeply. And this is really what cemented me in having my own spirituality, and also being empowered in my spiritual journey and not needing validation from anybody. And I was only 14. What did I know? Compared to what I know now, I knew nothing, but I knew enough. I had so much conviction from the little things that happened, or what I thought were little things, one of which I've told you about in my childhood. And then this huge moment that solidified my being, also my oneness with the universe, with God, with my ancestors, with all that is in that moment, in those minutes, in that hour, in the hours, maybe 2 at max, maybe more. That was enough for me to understand there is more, so much more, and I am bigger than this. We are bigger than this. What we go through is bigger than anything that we just experience as humans. And so this leads me onto the benefits, the true benefits of vulnerability. The benefits of acknowledging our own sense of spirituality and not needing validation, not needing anyone to confirm, to validate, or even to celebrate our journeys. We celebrate them, we acknowledge them, we validate them for ourselves just by knowing it happened. We are being. This is what matters. This is how we allow ourselves to be authentic, how we allow others to be authentic, how we are willing to make mistakes, to go through challenges, to grow, to expand, to know true purpose, to know what our mission is, to be lit up from the inside out, to have conviction of who we are within without any external influences. This is what motivates me. This is why I'm so passionate about this podcast, about meeting people, about talking to people, about talking about all the things under the umbrella of spirituality, of relationships, of connection. It matters. Everything matters. But it starts within us. It starts here. In every moment that we acknowledge what we feel, what we think, how we move. And so does authenticity. So aside from the benefits of authenticity and purpose, we gain a sense of empowerment from our moments of vulnerability. We experience an unwavering amount of confidence, self-assurance, and true acceptance. An acceptance that allows us to allow others to be themselves and allow us to just be who we are in every moment, in most moments. It gives us a deeper sense of self-discovery. We strengthen our connection with ourselves more deeply, more intimately, and more inclusive of others. We allow that connection to grow, to expand beyond ourselves with the divine and with others. It also allows us to balance our feminine and masculine energies. So I want you all to affirm these words throughout the week. I am a spiritual being having a human experience, and my spiritual journey is mine alone. My inner voice is my guide, and it validates me. My spiritual journey allows me to show up authentically. My spiritual journey is not up for debate. My spiritual journey is about my connection to self, the divine, my ancestors, and all that is. And I am love, and constantly in receipt of receiving love through my inner connection. And so it is. We've reached the end of the show, and now is where I give you prompts for what I like to call soul work. These are timed creative writing prompts designed to take you a little deeper into self-reflection and discovery, to get those channels of creativity and divine insights opening more and more week after week, to help integrate the lessons along with the messages our souls have for us. This week's prompt is, where did my spiritual journey begin? And did the door of vulnerability show up for me? If the answer is yes, what did it look like? If no, what's in the way? Take 20 minutes and 20 minutes only to write all that comes up. It doesn't matter what it sounds like or how poetically perfect it is or what it looks like. Even what's written, just write. Write everything that you feel, what you feel. Be present. And please do feel free to send your responses in. Share them in the comment section of my social media pages or in the review sections. You can also include it in the reply in my additional question on Anchor and Spotify. But for now, you can join the tribe and connect over on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram and Clubhouse, searching Anastasia Speaks, or go to anastasiaspeaks.com for more. Remember, seeking more means you can no longer stay small. Thank you for listening, and don't forget to subscribe. The key is always radical self-acceptance. But just know, delay is not denial. Missteps happen so we get the chance to realign. And you are not alone. Love louder to release all fear. See you on the next episode.